We have 3 song sheets tonight, and we'll begin in a moment. And as you know, we turn back and forth between the Siddur, between the prayer book and the song sheets. We'll begin this evening in the Siddur with the Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem is on page number 5. It's on page number 5. It's a prayerful song. And think about it. This prayerful song originates in the home. And because people liked it so much, it gradually, over a span of centuries, migrated from the home into the synagogue. It's a prayerful song. And the message of the Shalom Aleichem on page 5 is that angels are entering a place where we are. So that makes me think and wonder, what is it about where we are that draws angels into our company? Perhaps?
Well, my friend learned about that. My mother said, Linda's with the angels now.
I sure hope so. So ask yourself, and this is open to as wide a range of discovery and consideration as possible, but what is it about being in a community that draws angels into the presence of the community? And we'll continue. But right now we're starting with the Shalom Aleichem on page 5. Shalom Aleichem Malachei HaShoret Malachei Elyon Melech Malachei Hamlochim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Boachem l'shalom Malachei Shalom Malachei Elyon Melech Malachei Hamlochim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Baruch Hu Shalom Malachei HaShalom Malachei Elyon Melech Malachei Hamlochim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Tzedchem l'shalom Malachei HaShalom Malachei Elyon Melech Malachei Hamlochim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And turning to page number 11, on the left-hand side of the page, page 11, a little marginal note at the top of the page, finding our way on page 11. Prayer is no panacea, no substitute for action. It is rather like a beam thrown from a flashlight before us into the darkness. It is in this light that we who grope, stumble, and climb discover where we stand, what surrounds us, and the course which we should choose. And the pronoun in this little comment by Abram Joshua Heschel is we. And 95% of the vocabulary, the style, the syntax of Jewish prayer is collective, teaching us that we're in our world together as a community. And of course, there are many opportunities for private reflection and prayer within our own thoughts and our silent meditation. But when we come together as a group, we establish a community. The community is based upon willingness of individuals to share their energy, to build a community. So, L'chun Rananam, On page 11, a little bit of Hebrew, and then the stanza on the English. Lechu neranen al Adonai, naria letzur yishenu, nekadma fana bitoda, bismiro naria lo, nekadma fanav bitoda, bismiro naria lo, kiel gadol Adonai umelech gadol al kol Elohim asher biyado mekerei aretz v'toafot harim lo asher biyado mekerei aretz v'toafot harim lo. Together, let us go and sing to Adonai. Let us trumpet praise to our protector. Filled with thanks, let us greet God, raising our voice in song. Great is Adonai, a greater sovereign than all other deities. God's hands form the earth's deep. Mountain crests too are God's work. The sea is God's, for God made it. Dry land was fashioned by God's hands. Come then, let us bow and kneel. Let us bend our knees in the presence of Adonai, who formed us. On page 12, it's that last little stanza on the English side, the little red arrow, for 40 years. For 40 years I was troubled by that generation, and I said, these are people whose hearts have gone astray. They do not know my way. So in anger I swore they would not enter my rest. Harim shakut v'tor v'omar toi levavhem v'hem lo yidu drachai asher nishbati v'api im yavon el menuchati. 40 years in biblical parlance or conversation or perspective, it's a generation. And that's speaking of the transition from the generation that left Egypt, a generation that in its own mind was still enslaved, incapable of walking into and becoming pioneers. And that's why they died out. And the next generation, born in the wilderness, needing to survive, hardy, it was that next generation that entered the promised land and establish a new understanding of what it means to be a member of Yisrael, to work. So thinking about generation, the first song sheet tonight, L'Dor Vador, it's on the song sheet, L'Dor Vador, song and music by Josh Nelson, L'Dor Vador.
We are gifts, and we are blessings. We are His story in song. We are hope, and we are healing. We are learning to be strong. We are words, and we are stories. We are pictures of the past. We are carriers of wisdom, not the first and not the last. L'Dor Vador, Nagid Golecha. L'Dor Vador, we protect this chain from generation to generation. L'Dor Vador, these lips will praise your name. Looking back on the journey that we carry our hearts. From the shadow of the mountain to the waters that would part, we are blessed and we are holy. We are children of your way, and the words that bring us meaning, we will have the strength to say. The door vador, nagid god lecha. The door vador, we protect this chain from generation to generation. The door vador, these lips will praise your name. Dor vador, nagid god lecha. The dor vador, we protect this chain from generation to generation. The dor vador, these lips will praise your name.
Turning in the Siddur to page number, on the English side, Psalm 96, page 14. Bow to Adonai in the glory of this holy place. Tremble before God's presence, all who dwell on earth. Announce among the nations, Adonai reigns. The land is firm and will not be moved. Peoples will be truthfully judged. The heavens shall be glad and the earth rejoice. The sea and its fullness roar. The meadows and all that grows in them exult. Even the trees of the forest shall sing praise as Adonai comes to judge the earth, judging lands with righteousness and peoples with divine truth. L'Chododi, on page number 23, the first two stanzas, page 25, the last two stanzas, L'Chododi, seeing Shabbat as a bride, the presence of Shabbat poetically as a bride entering our presence. L'Chododi likrat kala p'nei Shabbat nikabela. L'Chododi likrat kala p'nei Shabbat nikabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad hishmiyanu el hamyuchad Adonai echad Ushmo echad l'shem otif eret v'litila l'Chododi likrat kala p'nei Shabbat nikabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha ki mekor habracha merosh mikedem nesucha sof ma'aseh b'machashava techila l'Chododi likrat kala p'nei Shabbat. Last two stanzas, page 25, the transliteration on the bottom. Yamin usmol tifrotzi ve'et Adonai taritzi al yad ish ben partzi v'nismecha v'nagila lecha dodi lekrat kala penei Shabbat nekabela Boib shalom ateret bala Gamba simcha uvtzahala Tochem uneam segula Boi chala Lecha dodi likrat kala Penei Shabbat nikabela. We are seated. And customarily, remembering that L'Charodi welcomes Shabbat, immediately after L'Charodi, we would turn to page 27. And if you look at page 27, you see at the top of page 27 a little title from the book of Psalms. This is the psalm associated with Shabbos. Yes, there's a psalm that's associated with Shabbos, and we say we could say her, because Tehillah, psalm, is a feminine noun. We say her Friday night at least once, and Saturday morning at least twice, if so, following the traditional prayer book. L'Charodi welcomes Shabbat, and the very first thing we do is say a psalm about Shabbos. Except, turn to page 26. When somebody has recently lost a loved one, and this is the first time that he or she walks into the shul, the whole service stops. And there's a very specific greeting that's offered the first time somebody walks into shul after losing a loved one. We're supposed to stop. And we're supposed to say, we're paying attention to you. Amidst Shabbos herself being here, we're supposed to stop and pay attention to somebody who just lost a loved one. And Jan and Mark just lost sister and sister-in-law Maxine. And on Sunday, we'll be having a memorial service. And members of the community are welcome to come to that memorial service and share support and express love and respect of and for Maxine and Jan and Mark and other members of the family. And as many times as I see this little phrase here in the Siddur, I still get a lump in my throat that the prayer book stops us and says, for just a moment, we need to pay attention to people more than Shabbos. That's the gist of this special greeting. And the greeting here, as you see it on page 26, there's a traditional and there's a more contemporary greeting, and I use the more traditional greeting because the wording, I think, is incredible and it's evocative. It's Hamakom Yenachem Etchem B'toch Sha'ar Avelei Tzion V'Yerushalayim, which is translated, may the divine comfort you along with all the other mourners of Tzion in Jerusalem, which means that this little greeting, which isn't really a prayer, it's a statement, sees you as being part of a community. And there are other people who have lost loved ones. But there's a little bit of a problem with this translation, because the translation reads the word as divine, but that's not what the word means. The word is hamakom, and makom means place. Place. And this is the only, to my knowledge, context in all of Jewish tradition where God is called the place. And what I think this means in ancient Hebrew is that may the everywhere, the thing that goes beyond all limitations, may the everywhere that's in every single place be close enough to you so you gain a sense of comfort. That's this one little sentence that we've been saying for centuries. We have to stop and pay attention to our people. And once we stop and pay attention to our people, then we're able to continue on and resume the formulaic attention given to Shabbos herself. And so now the Psalm for Shabbat on page 27. It is good to thank you, Adonai, and sing to your name most high, to proclaim your love at daybreak, your faithfulness each night. Finger the lute, pluck the harp, let the sound of the lyre rise up. You gladden me with your deeds, Adonai, and I shall sing of your handiwork. How wonderful are your works, Adonai, how subtle your designs. The arrogant do not understand, the fool does not comprehend this. The wicked flourish like grass, and every evildoer blossoms forever, only to be destroyed forever. But you, Adonai, are exalted for all time. Surely your enemies, Adonai, surely your enemies will perish. All who commit evil will be scattered. As a wild bull raises up its horn, you raised my head high, anointed it with fresh oil. As my enemies gather against me, my gaze remains steady, for my ears listen and hear. The righteous flourish like the date palm, thrive like a cedar in Lebanon, planted in the house of Adonai. They flourish in our God's courtyards. In old age they remain fruitful, still fresh and bountiful, proclaiming, Adonai is upright, my rock in whom there is no flaw. Oh, Univum Bisevo, Dishani, running mu, Lagi Kishorno, Etrulatabo. And turning now to the next song sheet, Craig Talman, Holy Ground. Shabbat talks about this as being a holy place, and the world itself is holy. Hence this song, Craig Talman, Holy Ground.
Every second, every minute, every hour, every day, everything, everyone, every place, every way, where you walk, where you stand, where you love, where you praise, all of life is holy ground. Every he, every she, every what, every who, it's in her, it's in them, it's in me, it's in you. In the bitter, in the sweet, in the calm, in the storm, all of life is holy ground. So walk as if it's holy ground. Breathe as if it's all around. Talk and make a holy sound. Take your shoes off, you're on holy ground. When you hurt, when you heal, when you laugh, when you pray, when you hold, when you keep, when you give it away, every second, every minute, every hour, every day, all of life is holy ground. So walk as if it's holy ground. Breathe as if it's all around. Talk and make a holy sound. We take our shoes off, we're on holy ground. We are one people, one story, one tapestry we weave. second, every minute, every hour, every day. Everything, everyone, every place, every way. Where you walk, where you stand, where you love, where you praise. All of life is holy ground. Can you feel the holy ground? Take your shoes off, you're on holy ground.
Please rise. Page 39b, Borchu. Page 39b in the Sidur. Page 39b. Baruch hu et Adonai amavorach. Baruch Adonai amavorach le'olam v'ed. We're seated, the English side, page 39b. Baruch atah Adonai, our God, sovereign of time and space, you completed your work of creation on the seventh day, calling this day from one evening to the next the holy Shabbat, and gave this day of rest in all its holiness to your people Israel, creator of day and night, rolling light before darkness and darkness from light, making day pass and bringing on the evening, distinguishing day from night. Adonai Tzvaot is your name, living and ever-present God. May your rule be with us forever and ever. Baruch atah Adonai, who brings each evening's dusk. El Chai v'Kayam, Tamid Yimloch Alein Olam V'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravim. Officially, the first blessing of every evening service, Ma'ariv Aravim, speaks of the transition from day to night, an awareness of the passage of time by looking at the physical world. Time linked to the physical world. Look at page 40. The second bracha, very intentionally placed here, speaks of God's love for the people of Israel and Torah, meaning learning. Love is expressed through learning. Love and learning are as much a constituent part of life as time and awareness of the world in which we live. It's not an accident that these two blessings are side by side. Page 40. With timeless love, you have loved your people, the house of Israel. You have taught us Torah and mitzvot, statutes and laws. Therefore, Adonai, our God, as we lie down and as we rise up, we shall speak of your laws, rejoicing in the words of your Torah and in your mitzvot forever and ever. For there are life and the fullness of our days, and on them we shall meditate day and night. Do not ever withdraw your love from us. Ve'avotecha al tasir mimena la'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. Page 41. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'avta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha, u'b'chol nafshecha, u'b'chol me'odecha, v'hayil hadvarim ha'ele, asher anochi mitzavecha yom al levavecha, v'shinatam levanecha, v'dibarta bam, v'shivtecha b'beitecha, u'v'lektecha v'aderech, u'v'shachbecha v'kumecha, u'kishartam la'ot al yadecha, v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha, u'ktavtam al mezuzot beitecha, u'v'sharecha. A few moments of silence, perhaps considering passages on 41 or 42 in silence. Adonai Elohechem Emet. And the theme of that second bracha is loving God. And the Ahavta speaks of loving God. Hence this song sheet, Love Your God.
Love your God with all your heart, with all your strength, with all your soul. Love your God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul. Where you live, where you lie, where you stumble, where you thrive, with all you speak, with all you know, with all your soul. Be like God, one like God, in love and life. Be like God, love like God, when you seek, when you soar, when you breathe and breathe no more. Love your God, be with God, go with God.
Turning now to page 44, Michamocha on the English side, page 44. Then Moses, Miriam, and the people Israel joyfully sang to you, Umalchuto beratzon kiblu aleihem, Moshe u'Miriam u'bnei Yisrael, lecha anu shira, b'simcha rabba v'yamru chulam. Who is like you, Adonai, among the mighty? Who is like you, adorned in holiness, revered in praise, working wonders? Mi chamocha po'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh, noratilot ol seifelem. Your children recognize your sovereignty as you split the sea before Moses. This is my God, they responded and said, Adonai will reign forever and ever. Malchutaka ra'u vanecha, bokei yam lifnei Moshe, zeli anu ve'amru, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. And so it is written, Adonai has rescued Jacob and redeemed him from the hand of those more powerful than he. Baruch atah Adonai, who redeemed the people Israel. On page 45, you've heard me speak of the Hashkivenu. And the sense of that first word, Hashkivenu, is may we all dwell in peace. And we go home at night and we get ready for bed and we get into bed, maybe we have a sense that we are at peace and everyone else. But near the end, Ushmor Tzeitenu Vo'enu, it's the little red arrow. Ushmor Tzeitenu, we're going out of Vo'enu, we're coming back. We walk around all the time. We're moving. Every time we take a step, may we have a sense of peace, of calm, of being watched over. And so going back to the song sheet, it's Never Walk Alone here on this same song sheet. Never Walk Alone by Ross Levy. Never walk alone.
May we never walk the road alone. May we always be sheltered in peace. Walking hand in hand
hand side by side, soul by soul, may we someday all come to know. May the waves of health and joy reach the hearts of each girl and boy, from now through forever. Us, and may we always be happy and free. Every step you take it safely, and in every stride find joy and pride. Sheltered in peace. Adonai oz le'amo yiteh. Adonai oz le'amo yiteh. Sheltered in peace. Sheltered in peace. Sheltered in peace. Sheltered in
So on page 45, those last three lines, Hashkivein on the Hebrew side. Ufro salenu sukat shlomecha, baruch atah Adonai, hapores sukat shalom aleinu, v'al kol amo Yisrael, v'al Yerushalayim. V'shamru on page 46. V'shamro v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam oti le'olam oti le'olam V'shamro v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim v'et ha'aretz v'shamro v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat, ledorotam barit olam. Uvayom hashvi, Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, v'shamro v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabba b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael bagala uv'isman kariv v'imero amen Yehi shemei rabba mevarach La'olam li'olmei olmaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitparvim v'yinaseh v'yinadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shemei de'kudesh abrichu le'la mikorachata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran b'olma v'imero amen. Shabbat herself is a reminder. It's a prompt for us to see holiness, for us to become agents of holiness, for us to interact with the world through the lens of being holy. And so, in a moment, we'll rise for the silent prayer. Glance at the titles here, and we'll move quickly. Page 47, our ancestors. How do our ancestors bring a sense of holiness into our lives? Our ancient ancestors and our more recent ancestors. You could expand that. How do our family members, in some way, bring holiness into our lives? And we as family members, in turn. Page 48, God's saving care. How is the touch of God in your and my life bringing a sense of holiness? Page 49, God's holiness is the third bracha. Fourth bracha, how does pausing and treating this day differently than all of the days of the week bring a sense of holiness into your soul? Page 50, fifth bracha, restoration of Zion. That's a fancy way of saying Israel as our homeland. What does it mean for one place to have an entirely different stature than every other place where you and I might visit or live? Page 50, sixth bracha, gratitude for life and blessings. How often do you and I stop and say, wait, daily life, blessings of life, these are doorways of holiness. And the seventh blessing on page 51, that concludes the Amida, it's a bracha for peace, halavai. A few moments of silence for which we rise. The traditional text, page 47 to 52, or an opportunity to devise a private prayer at this time. We read the Torah every single week. There's a Torah portion that's assigned to every week. You may not realize this, but every Shabbos has a name. And the name of the Shabbos is customarily, usually, the name of the Torah reading of the week. And we're in the book of Numbers right now. And next week we conclude the book of Numbers, and we start the book of Deuteronomy the following week. And I want to just think about for a moment, when we say Numbers, what comes to mind? And think about the Hebrew name. The Hebrew name of the book is Bamidbar, which means in the wilderness, conveying a message of we're searching. We don't know where we are. Literally, we're homeless. There's a sense of fear, trepidation, anticipation, uncertainty. Will we survive? And then you think about the English name, the book of Numbers. It's more factual. Why? Well, give me just a moment. I'm going to try to get a little ditty going, then we'll come back to that in just a minute. Here we go. 12 tribes dedicating the tabernacle, 10 evil spies, 7 branches of the menorah, lots of complaining, many oases, a few wars, 2 censuses, 2 rebellions, 2 good spies, all from Israel. Ta-da. Okay, so that's the essence of the book of Numbers in one phrase. Many oases, a few wars. So taking against that entire background of rebellions and complaints and journeying and wars, we come to one of my all-time favorite elements in this Torah reading. The people of Israel have organized themselves. They're champing at the bit. They're just about ready to cross over into the promised land. A bureaucracy is establishing itself to apportion land so that you get land, you get land, you get land. You all have a place to live in security. And that's very meaningful because we've been wandering for 40 years. We're homeless. And after tens of thousands of people have been set aside, and this is yours, this is yours, this is yours. Five sisters step forward and they say, hey, wait, what about us? Because these are 5 individual women and they're unmarried. And all the preparation over the span of the past number of recent months in the book of Numbers to apportion land to make sure that every household has a place and a source of sustenance has been associated with a household headed by a man. And these 5 women step forward and say, hey, we're single women. We are sisters, 5 sisters. Our father died. How about us? Their names are Machla, Noah, Chogla, Milcah, and Tirzah. And most of these names are very difficult, and most Jews don't remember these names, and most Jews would be hard-pressed to even pronounce them. But I think we need to know these names because these 5 women step up and say, hey, how about us? And Moses doesn't know what to do, and Moses talks to God and says, what do we do? These are 5 single women. Do they become impoverished? Do they become prostitutes? What happens to them? And God says to Moses, they're right. They deserve to own land as well. So in essence, these 5 unmarried siblings step forward, and because of the justness of their claim, they set in motion a revolution of biblical law. Because prior to these 5 women stepping up, there was always the assumption that a woman would be taken care of by a man, and that land and the opportunity to provide for oneself would be associated with a family. And what's striking to me, and the older I get, the more this resonates within me, is that when Moses comes to God and brings the claim of these 5 sisters, God says, you know, they're right. And my first question is, does that mean that God did not anticipate that someday they're going to be adult single women? How is that possible? Or better, is it that this allowed for innovation by the fact that women stepped forward? Indeed, it may have even been seeking the stepping forward of women, which transforms biblical law. And so I look at these 5 women in the book of Numbers, the book of the wilderness, as a dramatic contributing feature to who we, as the people of Israel, need to be. We need to be the people that hears the voice of those who previously would not have been heard. We need to be the people that is open-minded enough that says, wait a minute, there might be somebody who doesn't fit into the norm or the expectation, and we need to open our hearts, our minds, our eyes, and our ears to welcome them into our community. And that's why I love these 5 sisters, because they taught Moses something. They may have even taught God something. And now you know why I have these names up here, because unfortunately many Jewish people are not going to remember Machla, Noah, Chagla, Milka, and Tirzah, because those names don't roll trippingly off the tongue unless you practice them like I have. Machla, Noah, Chagla, Milka, and Tirzah, that's the order in the Torah. Machla, Noah, Chagla, Milka, and Tirzah. But I'm going to give you a hint. You'll remember one of them. And you'll remember her name because her name is Noah. And that's why for the past 30 years, you've been hearing me insistently talk about the guy who brings the animals into the floating box as being called Noach, because Noach is a man's name, and Noach, the man's name, means being at rest. Noach means to be at rest. And Noah, Hebrew name, a feminine name, means movement. The modern Hebrew word for a motor or an engine is manoah, from this name. And a symphonic movement or a ballet movement is tanoah, from this name Noah. Noah is a woman, and she is an activist, and her energy drives movement and momentum along with her 4 siblings, changing 3,300 years ago history and leaving an imprint on the minds of all who are willing to try to remember their names. May we hold on to these 5 sisters inside the book of Numbers as a momentum for learning and opening our eyes and our hearts. We rise for the Elenu. Page 56. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, latet gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu k'goyei haratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu shehu notesh shamayim v'yosed haaretz u'moshav yekaro b'shamayim mimal u'shchinatu zo begavei meramim hu Eloheinu eno Od, Emet Malkeinu Evezulatom, Kakatu Bitoratom, Viadatayom, Vashevota Elavavecha, Ki Adonai Elohim, Bashamayim Mimal, Val Haaretz, V'Haaretz, Mitachot, Enod, Enod. Kakatu b'Toratecha, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed, v'ne'emar v'aya Adonai le'melech al kol haaretz, bayom hahu, yihye Adonai echad. O Shema, O Shema, O Shema Echad. In a moment, the Mourner's Kaddish on page number 58. Page 58, and those inclined to recite the Kaddish are invited to remain standing on page 58, the Mourner's Kaddish. And then this Shabbat, oh my, pardon me. Allow me one moment. I apologize. The list was not presented. Allow me one moment, please. On this Shabbos, we remember with great love Sally Jacoby, Ida Hershkovitz, Leah Handwerger, Lena Lips, Goldie Greenberg Perkoff, Aaron Friedman, Sarah Friedman, Rabbi Abraham Gutel, Melvin Solomon, Joyce Lerner, Harvey Baer, Louis Kahn, Joseph Walters, Sarah Rosen, Barry Weinstein, Rose Tenzer, Sarah Mishevsky, Dr. Joseph B. Miller, Maxine Rosen, Pat Cockrell. Are there any other names to mention this evening? Perhaps those at home have a name to share as well. Those at home joining in are invited to rise as well. Kaddish in just a moment on page number 58, page 58. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba. Amen. Be'olma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute. B'chaye chon u'v'yome chon u'v'chaye dechol beit Yisrael. Ba'agala u'v'zman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabba mivarach la'olam olalmei olmaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shemei dekudusha b'rechu la'ela min kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata da'amiran ba'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shaloma rabba min shemaya v'chayim olenu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom olenu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Prayers for peace. In a moment, we'll conclude with Oseh Shalom. It's the last line of the Kaddish. And please remember, when Kaddish is first originating, it has nothing to do with grief. It still doesn't. Kaddish originates in the context that a community came together and studied Torah or Talmud in memory of somebody who died. And so community comes together and in living shared experience studies to learn, to grow. And they did that in honor of somebody who had died. And they said the Kaddish at the conclusion of the study session. So when we say Oseh Shalom B'Mamav, which is how we'll end in a moment with a song in just a moment, what we're really doing is reminding us that from a Jewish prayer mindset, when we study together, it's a first step towards learning, towards growth, and hopefully towards bringing peace. We'll conclude with Oseh Shalom, and then afterwards Kiddush and Amotzi. Oseh Shalom, it's the last line here on page 58.
Oseh Shalom b'Mamav, we Oseh Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimeru. Amen.
Oseh Shalom b'Mamav, v'yaseh Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimeru. Amen. Oseh Shalom
Oseh Shalom
b'Mamav,
b'Mamav,
v'yaseh
Shalom
aleinu
aleinu
ve'al kol
ve'al kol
Yisrael
Yisrael v'yimeru. Amen.
Oseh Shalom
Oseh Shalom
b'Mamav,
Shalom b'Mamav,
v'yaseh Shalom aleinu
aleinu
ve'al kol
ve'al kol
Yisrael
kol Yisrael.
v'yimeru. Amen.
Amen.
Oseh Shalom b'Mamav, v'yaseh
Shalom. Good Shabbos. Thanks for joining in from home. We hope to see you soon in the building. Lead road until we see you. May you know that you're always blessed by God. Good Shabbos.